Unreleased content, theories, forgotten history, obscure lore, strange facts, and more. Today, I'm going to be explaining the Brawl Stars Iceberg. And I know I did one of these several years ago, it was like a really small one, but this time it's bigger and better. I have remade the chart, which includes over 3 times as many entries and better explanations. And I'm sure these need no introduction, but just in case, we're going to start talking about some popular stuff and fun facts, and the further down we go, the more obscure and unknown the topics get. So with that being said, let's get off this boat and dive right into it. Brawltopia. In late 2019, after players noticed a Ferris wheel in the background of a new loading screen, there were many speculations that Brawl Stars took place in a theme park. A popular one was Brawltopia, one location that had all the game modes of the time, which were each different areas of the park. In late 2020, these theories were confirmed to be true. Its actual location is Star Park. Ever since this moment, they have reconfirmed this time and time again. I mean, there are countless references to this. And it also serves as the basis in basically all of Brawl Stars lore. TNT and indestructible blocks. These were blocks originally used in the alpha and beta stages of the game. TNT was used for heist, but once they got removed, they remained in the game files, and only the TNT was used in the tutorial, for example. When Mapmaker came out years later, TNT and indestructible blocks were one of those items you could not place. But that did not stop players from finding out how to code them back into the game, so you saw a lot of community maps with these indestructible blocks. This was the case between 2020 and early 2021, but it was eventually patched. Indestructible blocks did make a comeback though in 2023, but not for Mapmaker. Star Park. This is a massive part of the game's lore, and there's also a few entries later on that hit on some of it. But to give you the gist of it, based on the lore, Star Park was a regular old theme park open throughout the 20th century with humble beginnings. However, at some point, the park's staff uncovered these radioactive purple gems deep in the park's mines, which ended up mutating its visitors and staff into these mutated brawlers. This led to the park's collapse, which happened in 1995, and all of this was captured through security footage. The Star Corporation behind the park tried to cover it all up and trap the survivors inside a loop of eternal combat, which is where we are today. OG Brawl Boxes. This is basically referring to the first Brawl Boxes in the game and their original designs, which include the Brawl Box, later renamed to Free Box, the Big Box, and the Mega Box. Before the Brawl Pass existed, these were essentially the main way to progress in the game. I assume this is an entry in many Icebergs, simply because of the fact that they looked so different from their later designs, which have since been removed, except for the Mega one. Developer build. The developer build is simply a version of the game developers and contributors use to test new features and show them off during sneak peeks. It's nothing crazy, but over the years, many people have claimed that they have the developer build, and you can download it right here. Of course, they were not developer builds. Most of the time, they were just modified APKs or private servers or maybe viruses. The only way to officially get it is to be part of the creative program. Brawlers in environments. This is referring to some brawlers appearing in some maps when playing. But when you play the brawler, they're gone. What a nice Easter egg. Beta music. This is referring to the old menu music used years ago. Yeah, that's it. It's just a nostalgic piece of history. Soci_Jopy. This is a pretty odd name that a lot of accounts were found with. I don't have real numbers, but I'd say hundreds, if not thousands, with this same name. This was a mystery for a good bit, but it turned out this was another case of free legendary code trolls. This was when someone, most of the time it was clickbait YouTubers, would tell their audience to input a code into their name change request. And apparently once you said the name, you got a free legendary in the next chest. Unfortunately for all those accounts, it did not work and they were stuck with this name, which roughly translates in Russian to I suck. To this day, there are still many Soci_Jopys out there. The same exact thing happened with the names Tomar753 and Cheater777. These trolls were very popular in 2020. Brawler trios. When the game first came out in 2017, some players started noticing that some brawlers looked like they were somehow related to each other. Not necessarily family, but they had some connection, like their themes or something. And it turns out they weren't crazy, because developers eventually confirmed that brawler trios existed, which is how they categorize brawlers. So there's the Ranger Ranch, Arcade, Pirates. I'm not sure if these are official names, but there's a lot. And all of these trios also belong to another trio, which categorizes them into different areas of Star Park. Portrait mode. This is referring to the time when Brawl Stars was played in a portrait orientation like Clash Royale. It was certainly a weird time for the game, and honestly, as far as I can remember, this setup was rather awkward to play, but that's all players knew at the time, so it wasn't that bad. In early 2018, when Supercell was on the brink of killing the game, they decided to overhaul the game one more time, and with it was a change to the orientation. Power play. There is nothing odd about this mode, it's simply one of those things that is starting to become forgotten. Power play was a competitive mode added in October 2019. It was pretty much your standard ranked mode with its own point system, and had strict requirements, like brawlers had to be fully maxed with star powers, and you could only play 3 matches a day. In March of 2021, less than 2 years later, Power Play was replaced by Power League, and in February 2024, League was replaced by Ranked. WKBRL stream. As the name suggests, this was a live stream, but interestingly, it was discovered by players after noticing a Morse code in a new map that spelled out WKBRL. It went live in May 2020 and went offline over a year later in late 2021. During the time it was live, the live stream typically had hidden messages pertaining to updates and Star Park lore. One of the most well-known events was when it was playing a commercial on the radio that hadn't come out yet. There's obviously a lot more to it, but most of you probably remember it for this.
This is normal. This is normal. This is normal.
Banned countries. Brawl Stars is banned in several countries for different reasons. For example, in March of 2022, it was blocked in Russia and Belarus in response to the war in Ukraine. It is also banned in Cuba, Iran, Syria, and North Korea, mostly due to economic sanctions and local laws. Miko-apocalypse. This refers to a period in December 2023 when Miko, a mythic brawler, was given out for free to everyone. And this resulted in matchmaking being flooded with Mikos, and it was pretty chaotic due to its annoying mechanics. And yeah, that's how I got its name, Miko-apocalypse, because it was annoying, or at least that's what they say. This has happened several times throughout Brawl Stars history. Like another entry in the Iceberg was the Edgar apocalypse. That one I remember, and it happened in 2020 where the exact same thing happened. Thumbs down. I'm not really sure why this ended up in so many icebergs, but I gotta talk about it, I guess. This is basically the default BM pin in the game. It's like the hee-hee-hee-ha of Clash Royale in a sense, but this one is kind of like saying that you're trash at the game. 456 gold. So in 2020, Brawl Stars ended up sponsoring a Mr. Beast video. It was the Squid Games in real life. So you could see a big logo in one of the games, and at the end of the sponsor segment, he says anyone who downloads it will get a special prize. Obviously, he was probably just talking whatever Supercell told him to say, but the special prize was incredibly underwhelming. It was 456 gold. Rarity changes. This is referring to the many brawlers that have had their rarities changed. For example, Bo used to be an epic, then super rare, then common, and eventually back to an epic. And basically the same thing has happened to Mortis, Rico, Tick, and a couple others. Chromatic. This was a special rarity that was introduced with the Season Pass, basically like the Season Pass brawler that you could unlock. So you had Pearl, Lou, Ruffs, Surge, and many others. However, in December 2023, during the Chroma No More update, they've removed this rarity, and all of the chromatic brawlers were relocated to Epic, Mythic, or Legendary. Migration of Clash Royale. I'm not entirely sure what this could be referring to, but I think it's talking about player migration, how every time Clash Royale is doing bad, players come in droves to Brawl Stars. And if you know anything about Clash Royale, they have had many bad updates over the years, so this migration has happened quite a bit. Low trophy players are all bots. If this was 2018, this would have been a wild entry. Like, what do you mean? Bots. However, I put it at the top of the iceberg because I believe this is pretty common knowledge by now. The players that you face with any low trophy brawler are most likely bots. They do this to speed up matchmaking, but also so that new players are hooked because winning is better than losing for player retention. And also, just so that you can learn how to use a brawler. Mr. P is Gene. This is a popular theory that Mr. P is Gene in a costume. This started when players noticed Mr. P has a zipper behind him, and both of them happen to be the same size and also have similar voices. Other than those similarities though, I don't think there's anything else to it. Pam and Jesse are related. This is another one of those entries that would have been crazy to think about years ago, but today I think everyone and their mama knows. Pam and Jesse belong to the Junker family, and Nanny is also part of that family. He's the family caretaker, which was built by Pam. Old Training Cave. The Training Cave is a sandbox area used to test out brawlers and view skins you don't have. There's nothing odd about it other than the fact that it used to look like an actual cave at one point, hence the name Training Cave. In 2020 though, they changed it into a Star Park environment that looks more like a park. Grom's fear of kids. Although there are many official lore pieces that we do discuss and many that we don't, Grom's background is definitely one of the most odd ones that I had to include. So it is said that he used to be a teacher and something happened during that time that made him fear kids, which was referenced in one particular Brawl Talk and in his voice lines.
I hear the children laughing at me. I am teaching, but you are not learning.
Remodels. There's been countless brawler remodels throughout the years, way too many to show them all, but the most notable ones are the oldest brawlers that look drastically different, like Shelly, Colt, Jesse, and Brock. OG YouTubers. This is basically referring to those who started uploading Brawl Stars before it was cool during its beta and stuck to it to this day, like Lex, Ray, OJ, and of course, Kairos Time. Beta differences. There are several entries in this iceberg that discuss some of the most notable differences between beta and global Brawl Stars, but to sum it up, the biggest was the orientation you played. The controls as well, there were no two joysticks, and the progression system. You upgraded every individual stat of a brawler, like its health, damage, and super. YouTube Kids. This is referring to the wacky side of the Brawl Stars content creation space. Videos meant for kids. Nothing odd about it other than it being tucked in its own little corner and being top tier cringe. Star hats. Beginning in Season 3, these star hats have appeared in maps across the game. These are supposed to be hats for kids in Star Park. Other than that, it's just another Star Park Easter egg. Old trailers. This is referring to the old trailers that Brawl Stars used to make, all of them being Western themed. There's too many to talk about and they're too long to show them all, but here's some highlights. Spike's socks. Little fun Easter egg. Spike's socks have been found throughout the entire game and art for years, and I believe they started to appear around Season 1. It's kind of like the banana from Clash of Clans sceneries. They're all over the place. Even brawlers be rocking them in some of their skins. Old Brawl Ball. So back in the day, Brawl Ball had a very unique difference. The goal. It was inside the map, so you could walk behind it. However, this led to boring matches where players would just hog the ball behind the goal. So they eventually tucked it into its own pocket, which is why it looks like that today. Bull's last name. I don't think modern Brawl Stars has hinted at this for quite a while, I could be wrong, but Bull's last name was in its description long ago. Bull Blanco, which literally stands for White Bull. Project Laser. This was the code name for Brawl Stars between 2014 and 2016. So Project Laser was basically Brawl Stars but sci-fi themed, so it took place in space. And of course, there were aliens and robots, and these were the characters at the time. Not much footage exists of Project Laser, but during a GDC session, they talked about it for a bit, which is the gameplay you're seeing right now. There are other entries in the Iceberg that talk about Project Laser a little more, so I'll just leave it at this. Project Laser minigame. In August of 2020, there was an Easter egg where when you tapped on 8-bit a few times, you would load up a minigame in your browser. It was basically a classic space shooter type game. It was only in the game for a few days and poof, it went. But luckily, links do exist online to play it today. You just gotta search up Project Laser minigame on Google. Anyway, the game had like 4 stages and it had a lot of Easter eggs. 49 megaboxes. In June of 2020, players discovered an unbeatable offer in the shop. 49 megaboxes for 49 gems. Basically, they were giving away a couple $100 worth of these boxes for a couple bucks. This was confirmed to be a bug, of course, but it doesn't look like any progress was rolled back, so some players got really lucky. 140 megaboxes. This one was very similar to the last one, so I put them together. It was basically the same exact glitch, but for 140 megaboxes for the same price. What a deal! I'm really confused as to how these glitches kept happening. Rarity boxes. Back in the day, you could actually buy specific rarity boxes that contained a guaranteed brawler. This included the rare, super rare, and epic box, and eventually a mythic box. Good times. Developer skins. This is referring to an old April Fool's joke that developers pulled on the community of new skins for Danny, Frank, and Ryan. Of course though, they never came out, it was just a joke. Bones in Jesse's hair. In an old 2018 trailer called Spark, Bang, and Stab, it's revealed that Jessie has bones in her hair after she gets electrocuted. Now there is another similar entry in the Iceberg similar to this but for a different brawler. But as for Jessie, this just seems like the artists were just trying to have fun and nothing more. 5,000 gem incident. In January 2024, players were encountering a bug where if you change your account before completing the Brawl Pass purchase, you'd receive 5,000 gems. Some players actually went on a spending spree thinking they got really lucky. However, they'd be met with a negative gem balance days later. Paw Chaw Easter egg. Ash, the brawler, has a face drawn on its back. It's not just any face though, this is actually a reference to Paul Chaw or Paul Chambers, one of the original creators and artists of Brawl Stars. The face on Ash's back was put there shortly before he left the Brawl Stars team. Ash is also Scottish and grumpy, just like Paul, who is also Scottish and described himself as grumpy. Homer. Homer was a name in the game files for a brawler that wasn't in the game. Everyone speculated this was the next brawler at the time, but it was later confirmed that Homer was just an early version of B, and they just happened to leave it in the game files as Homer. This clan tag. This was a mysterious clan tag that players were putting in their names around 2019, and for a while it wasn't clear what the whole point of it was. However, it was eventually found out that the tag was a Russian swear word, and that players who had it in their name were teaming in Showdown. Apparently, this movement began with a Russian creator known as Ice Arrow. That's right! This was a pretty popular phrase that used to be said by Ryan, the original community manager between 2017 and 2021. It eventually became a meme. In fact, he said it so many times, people made compilations of it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Barrel Bot. A little fun fact, I guess, in late 2017 during a Brawl Talk, a new brawler was introduced and it was called Barrel Bot.
So anyway, he will be called Barrel Bot. And yes, he's a robot in a barrel with dual shotguns.
However, just a day later, Barrel Bot was renamed to Daryl. Showdown Plus. This was a modified version of Showdown that was temporarily available in 2023. Basically, for every kill, you gained more trophies, and this was supposed to eliminate teaming altogether. However, even though it was loved by the community, it never came back. Developers revealed that it didn't eliminate teaming after all, and just inflated everyone's trophies. Supercell Make. This is a platform where people can essentially enter contests to have their own creation in-game and receive a cash prize. In Brawl Stars, many skins have been added this way, which all have this Supercell Make badge. Spike's voice. Spike doesn't have a voice. It was decided he wouldn't have one to add mystery around it. But there was once a commercial called The Wild Bunch with Shelly, Dynamite, and Spike. All characters had voice lines, including Spike.
Now I'm your snuggle buddy. Spike is my name. If I'm on the attack or hugging you, I'll tell you all the same.
But it's believed this was just added for the song and it wasn't his actual voice. Unavailable usernames. I'm not sure what exactly this is referring to, it's so vague, but I believe it's that somewhere there's a list of unavailable usernames you cannot use, a blacklist. Or perhaps this is referring to how you cannot use simple names even though there's nothing wrong with them. Mortis's hat. In 2018, Supercell removed the top hat from Mortis's design after a redesign. However, shortly after they were pressured to add it back, this resulted in them giving away a free skin, Top Hat Mortis. This is why that skin exists. It's basically the OG Mortis design. I'm not even going to try to read that. This is the name of a showdown map that was playable between 2020 and 2021. There's nothing special about the map other than it's an inverted version of Cavern Churn. The name is also inverted, that's why it's such a weird name. Bad Randoms. This is the name of a fictitious band in the Brawl universe composed of Poco, Stu, and Buzz. Even though it's a fake band, they have several tracks available on all platforms. The actual band behind it is called Mason. Jackie Uncensored Voice Lines. As you may have noticed, the brawler Jackie has voice lines in the game that are censored with drill sounds. Players thought she might actually be swearing, so they did a bit of investigating, but the actual recordings revealed that she was not swearing.
I'll stick a cookie in your face! Let's go kick some booty! Shoes and hats and coats and also dresses? Seriously? Fudge this!
Sprout made by Rosa. This is a piece of official lore that explains Sprout is a gardening robot assistant that helps Rosa around her biodome. It's believed that Rosa actually made it as well, as it's simply an incubator for the seed that it's carrying. Beta description lore. This is referring to the old brawler descriptions that had their backstories. For example, Colt said that he was a town sheriff, a resident hair model, and that he enforced the law with his long-range accuracy and mighty fine smile. But in late 2018, they started to replace these with generic explanations of what they do instead. So Colt's description got rid of the sheriff and hair lore and simply explained what his attacks did. They have improved on this since 2019 after they established the Star Park lore, so they have been changing some of the descriptions again. Event tickets. These red tickets were added in the game in July 2017, and they were basically a currency used to enter the weekend events like Big Game, Robo Rumble, and Boss Fight. The more tickets you put into the match, the more tokens you got out of the rewards. And these were always accessible. You could buy them in the shop with gems, or find them in any chest. In mid-2020 though, these events were made free, so there was no need for the tickets and they removed them. Star tokens. These were basically the special version of tokens, and they could be won from winning an event for the first time in a rotation. Collecting 10 of them would reward you with a big box, but in 2020, they were made obsolete after the Brawl Pass was introduced. Cheese meta. This is a general term that describes ways to cheat the game, essentially. It's like finding glitches and bugs to win a match easier. In the Brawl Stars community, it was popularized by OJ in 2019, and throughout the years, it's become synonymous with breaking the game for an easy win. $1 million thumbs down. In the 2021 World Finals, a player named Tyron and his team Tribe were winning a match of Siege, when all of a sudden they started BMing the thumbs down pin. While they were busy doing this, the other team got enough bolts and won. On the line was $1 million, and the opportunity was lost because of a thumbs down. Piper Rico. This is describing the lore-based relationship between Piper and Rico. There's nothing crazy about it except for it was the first relationship that was confirmed by developers to be an actual thing. It's also the oldest couple in the Brawl universe. Wild West theme. Between 2017 and 2019, Brawl Stars was primarily a Western-themed game. It was pretty obvious too, you could see it in trailers, promotional images, character designs, currencies, music, even brawler descriptions. In December 2017, however, the game started to slowly shift away from it. It was still very much Western-themed at the time, but by global launch a year later, they had mostly shifted to this Star Park theme. Old Daryl Super. In the early days of Brawl Stars, Daryl's barrel roll was hilariously busted. It was capable of rolling half across the map. Yeah, that's it. It's worth mentioning though. 13 minutes and 14 seconds. This is referring to the time limit in a single game. When the timer reaches that number, the game ends. And in the tutorial, it just skips it. You don't need to learn anything, right? You took too long. This could also be referring to a glitch for Robo Rumble where you could get to the max time by doing a glitch where El Primo was unreachable to the robots. Many players did the glitch just to get the max time to show it off in their profile. Big hands. This was an April Fool's joke for 2026. It was an in-game modifier for Showdown that made brawlers' hands huge, or more specifically, what they were holding. It was also viewable in the character selection and in the menu. It was pretty hilarious. Extra life. This was the notorious and highly controversial star power for 8-bit. It essentially allowed it to come back to life after dying with an immunity shield. It was hated because it was flat out busted and annoying to deal with. So in September 2020, they replaced it with the plugged-in star power. Mortis in wall. This was a glitch during 2020 where Mortis could dash into a wall. The bug was pretty harmless as it was hard to replicate in real matches and it didn't provide any advantage anyway. You could still get hit by bullets. Slugfest. Slugfest was the original name of Brawl Stars. Of course, there was Project Laser, which we've talked about, but this was its actual name when it went into alpha in early 2017. There is footage of this as well, but it's pretty blurry, and overall, it was pretty similar to what Brawl Stars was when it went into beta, just with different controls and character models. Fun fact though, this is the reason why a lot of the OG music is called Slugfest. The Arena and Foley Incident. This is the name of a gem grab map created by the community. There was nothing odd about the map itself, except for the fact that that day, the map competition was broken, so you'd only queue up to this map all day long. The map was eventually disabled, but did win the competition and became a community favorite. World Championship 2020 background. This is referring to the in-game background that was used during the 2020 World Championship. What made this one be on Icebergs and not other World Championship backgrounds was that it was only like this for 1 hour. Only 1 hour on November 11th, 2020, and never again. Star Power Swap Glitch. Ah yes, one of the most infamous bugs in Brawl Stars history. This happened in between 2019 and 2020, and basically in friendly matches, you could swap these supers and gadgets on brawlers. So you could have Brock's Incinerary super on Colt, and his shots would leave patches of fire where they landed. Or everyone's favorite, putting Poco's healing ability on shotgunners, allowing you to damage and kill teammates. Banksy. This was the name of an unused Western-themed environment that featured many buildings and one in the middle called Banksy. According to the Art of Supercell book, this was a map during the Slugfest days. However, it's not obvious what map it was, like a heist or showdown, but probably a heist, because it makes sense. Although it never came out, it probably ended up inspiring the action show environment much later, which features a star bank. Guntown. Although never officially confirmed, Brawl Stars likely had another name during its Slugfest days called Guntown. This name has been referenced in many leftover game files from the time. This code. This is basically a code that used to change the color of your name, or any text you input in the game, really, clan chat, clan mail, whatever. This was before you could do it in your profile, so yeah, it was pretty cool. Eventually though, it stopped working and many players were left with this code in their name after a patch. Swan Song. Swan Song was a star power for Poco that let out a tune when Poco died, and his allies would recover 1000 health. This star power never really came out, I think it was only in the beta, and in its place was De Capo, which heals your allies when you hit them. There's a lot of star powers that were swapped as well. Another classic one is Pat on the Back, a star power for Jean that healed teammates that you hit. That one was eventually replaced with Spirit Slap. Rocket Girl. This is referring to the fact that Brock's codename is Rocket Girl, even though Brock is not a girl. It's not that crazy though. What happened here is that Brock was supposed to be a female during the Project Laser days, and then artists or developers changed their mind. Australian server. In the summer of 2020, a server was finally set up in Sydney, Australia to improve the experience for players across Australia and New Zealand. However, almost immediately, it started to experience some issues. Players were lagging quite heavily, and it went into frequent maintenance breaks. This led to them removing the server just months later in February 2021. And ever since, players there have been connected to the Singapore servers instead, which gives them a noticeable delay. Brock's Thermos. This is simply referring to Brock's rocket launcher. It has 4 rockets, but it always shoots 3. This confusing detail was cleared up when they added his second star power called Rocket Number 4. In its description, it's revealed that Brock has been keeping a thermos bottle in the 4th slot. Funny little detail there. Mama J. Yes, in beta versions of the game, Pam was called Mama J. Some theories suggest that the J stands for Junker, as in the mama of the Junker family. However, this has never been officially confirmed. Colette age controversy. When Colette was released, it was long believed that she was a teenager due to the way she behaved. These age theories aren't that uncommon, and it's rarely ever an issue, right? However, in January 2024, a loading screen seemed to depict Colette in a pretty seductive way. This sparked some controversy, of course, because people thought she was a teenager, like under 18. And eventually one of the artists spoke out and said that Colette is actually a young adult. And another artist said that she was in her late teens to early 20s. Nita and Leon's faces. This is a long-standing mystery on what these two brawlers look like because you cannot see it in-game. However, over the years, certain videos uploaded by Brawl Stars gives us hints. In the investor video, it's confirmed that they are kids, and in a CCTV still from 2023, we finally see their faces. Once again, confirming that they are kids running around Star Park getting up to shenanigans. Daryl's sombrero. This is talking about how Daryl used to have a sombrero in his announcement video, but upon release, he had a pirate hat instead. It was actually found in the game files with the sombrero, but yeah, we didn't get that version. Noel's Brawl. All Supercell games have private servers, which are essentially modded standalone clients where you have everything unlocked and can play custom game modes with other people that are also on the private server. Noel's Brawl just happens to be one of the most popular ones. I am not trying to promote them by any means, it was just an entry in many icebergs. SPUD. This acronym stands for Star Park Union of Distressed Employees. It's basically a resistance group within Star Park made up of people that haven't been taken control of by all the mic controlling shenanigans. For example, a park treat called the Spaghetti on the Stick, which controls people's minds after consumption. Patient 8. During the WKBRL livestream, a man was going on about something in French.
Patient numéro 8, 2 points. Sujet à des délires mégalomaniaques.
He was talking about someone known as Patient 8 who turned out to be 8-Bit. The man described many features of 8-Bit that weren't known before, like 8-Bit is convinced he is a ninja, he's convinced he can fly in space, and that 8-Bit is slow, angry, and insecure. 8-Bit's Nightmare. This was a community map called 8-Bit's Nightmare when translated. It was a chaotic map due to the spiral of jump pads that covered a big portion of it. The map was likely called 8-Bit's Nightmare because he's so slow that it was hard to avoid being launched somewhere else every time with 8-Bit. Minigunner. Minigunner was the beta version of Pam, and this is what it looked like. Now, previously, it was believed that Pam was supposed to be this dude who kind of looked like Bull, but actually, it was just reusing a really old design for Bull. You can see it in its gameplay that even though it has a shotgun, it shoots just like Pam. Anyway, developers would eventually finalize her design and she became the Pam we're all familiar with. Super Cats. This is a Brawl Stars ripoff that released in 2019. The main difference being instead of brawlers, they were all cats. When it launched, it had the old Brawl Stars layout, but it later got updated. So as Brawl Stars got updated, this one also got updated. It's still around today, and they have tried to be original in some areas, but it's hard not to compare it. 7777. During the height of the VIDEOէ streams, someone was commenting in Russian some code. 7777. People went nuts over what this could mean, a mysterious number, especially when they found out that it was a working creator code. The plot thickened. However, it turned out just to be a creator code for some random Korean channel. Great Clan Split. In 2021, clubs were 100 members big. It had been that way for a while, but that year they were cut down to 30. Clans were essentially duplicated and members were split into those clans. So the aftermath was some players waking up one day in a clone of their old clan. Starpark.biz. This was a website that was part of the early Star Park lore mystery, back when it was still fairly new. And the website was pretty weird. It had a gallery full of images that looked like props from the park, and an email that you could contact for a person named Webmaster. There is a lot that we still don't know of the website, but essentially it was a site that collected memories of Star Park. The original website doesn't work anymore, but if you search the website in Google, it will pop up. Gene Super Crash. Back when Gene first launched in February 2019, there was a bug causing the game to crash anytime someone used Gene's super. And because people really wanted to use this new brawler, of course, a lot of the matches that day were crashing, which led to Supercell temporarily disabling Gene and adding it back a few hours later. Starchive. This is a YouTube channel that is essentially an archive of most, if not everything that happened during the VIDEOէ stream. They also re-uploaded deleted or inaccessible videos from the Brawl Stars channel, so if you ever want to catch up on what you missed, this is a good place for it. Unused sound effects. There are a lot of them, and I'm not going to bore you with a 5-minute compilation of a lot of them, but I did want to play some of the more interesting ones. Default_defuse. This is referring to an unused texture of a pin. Not the current pins like the emotes, but pins from the OG upgrade system where you need to upgrade every brawler stats individually. Now, a random pin isn't that interesting, but it isn't just any pin. It was put in the game files on purpose to mess with people who were digging the game files. And I guess it served its purpose because it landed on many icebergs. Tap to move. So during the game's beta days, you had extra options in the settings where you could select how you wanted to move your brawler. A joystick or tap to move, where you literally tap where you want it to go. In 2018, however, they completely got rid of these options and standardized the controls with a 2-joystick layout. Spike's tongue. Spike doesn't seem to have a tongue, maybe that's why he doesn't speak, but interestingly, a couple of pins do have a tongue on him. BB's Bubblegum Challenge. Not an in-game challenge, this was a real challenge where Supercell sent out creators a package for the promotion of BB. Inside was a leather jacket and gum. And basically the challenge was to see who could get as much gum in their mouths as possible. Diagonal Brawl Stars. This was yet another April Fool's joke. This time, developers were making fun of the fact that Brawl Stars had gone landscape a year prior, so now the supposed next big thing was going diagonal. Old Heist. In the old days, Heist was played a little differently because there were no 2 safes on the map that you had to defend or attack simultaneously. Instead, there was one. At the beginning of every match, you'd randomly get selected as the defender or attacker, and that's how the old Heist was played for a while. Nita and Leon's parents. In late 2020, in the Star Park investor video, a boy and a girl is seen riding a roller coaster with their parents. However, we see in the background that the track is actually broken and the carts fall off of it. Eventually, the family comes back around, but it's just the two kids without their parents. The boy is seen with a lollipop he didn't have before and pulls his hoodie over his head, and the girl is holding a red bear she also didn't have either. That's because these two are the siblings Leon and Nita. It's pretty clear that the ride was intended to transform these two kids into brawlers, which aligns with the theory that Star Park mutated its gas to create brawlers. It's unknown what exactly happened to the parents. The thought of them being killed off because they weren't needed is pretty dark. Bubble Kvass. This was a Russian parody and ripoff of Brawl Stars made in 2022, a real game that you could download and install on your phone. And it was basically a bunch of memes. It was so random and incohesive, but that was the point of it. Now, the gameplay is nothing like Brawl Stars. It's just kind of like these wacky mini games, but that didn't stop it from going absolutely viral. To this day, the game remains in the Google App Store. Hashtag 9U22GGV0. This is a tag for a club where everyone used to have every brawler, everyone was maxed, and most players didn't have the same name. The most popular theory was that this was a developer dump clan where they dump throwaway accounts. But I highly doubt that's the case, as they use regular accounts in the live game. That's been confirmed many times. However, even though the clan is mostly empty today, there's still members in there, and for some reason their profiles do not load. It just makes this strange clan even more odd. Third star power. Many brawlers were supposed to get a third star power. For example, Dynamite had one called Release the Bird, where his bird would join the fight. And Jessie had one called Walk the Dog, where her turret would literally follow her. Honestly, those two sound amazing. They decided not to do the whole 3-star power thing. Instead, they added a lot of these as gadgets. However, a lot of others never saw the day of light. Clash collabs. Most Supercell games collaborate one way or another, and for Brawl, it's no different. There are many Clash-inspired skins, and in the Clash games we have sceneries, obstacles, Easter eggs like Shelly popping out of a portal, and even that one time when Brawl Stars was going global, we saw the logo in a Clash Royale arena, and Shelly and Bo as characters. Third-person camera. Basically, there is a secret option in the game files that enables a camera mode that appears to be third-person mode instead of the top-down view it's normally in. Some players over the years have figured out how to enable it, and it does look pretty odd, which begs the question, why does it even exist if we can't use it? Well, it's most likely just a experimental thing they changed their mind on and never decided to pull the trigger on. But interestingly, over the years, Supercell themselves has used this camera mode, so perhaps that's just the reason it's in there. Shelly's chicken. So a few years ago, it was confirmed by developers that Shelly was supposed to have a pet chicken as her super. This is going to be similar to how Jessie has a turret, Nita has a bear, and Tara has her own shadow. However, we never got it. Red and Blue King. So this is talking about those Clash Royale King skins for Frank. There's nothing crazy about them, I guess, except for their release timeline or when they were supposed to be expected, because they were teased all the way back in the fall of 2023. In early 2024 though, their price was announced, but they weren't released, instead appearing on Supercell ID rewards at the end of the year. Mousebot voice lines. The Mousebot is the codename for that small robot in Robo Rumble and Boss Fight. Robots don't say anything in the game, but the Mousebot does have some in the game files.
Constructing. Ow, 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 ow.
This is because in the early days when the game was still in its Project Laser stages, the Mousebot was a playable character, and so it had voice lines too. Hoverboard Brawler. This was an unknown brawler found in the game files, but it was later found out just to be an 8-bit prototype with water collision disables, which is crazy. Like, how on earth did that end up as 8-bit? Anyway, yeah, it was just crazy because it could walk on water, and we thought we were gonna get a brawler that could do that. Corbin Pelto. Aside from the fact that Mr. P could be Gene in disguise, another theory suggests he is a human named Corbin Pelto. Now, the human theory comes from one Brawloween video where he was zapped and you could see his skeleton. And the Corbin Pelto part of it all comes from a letter that was sent out to creators that said, ring the service bell if you need help at the Snowtel. We know Mr. P works at a Snowtel, and he also has a bell on his head. So yeah, Mr. P stands for Mr. Pelto. Name changes. There's been a few brawlers with their names changed after they were added. For example, Shelly used to be called Shotgun Shelly, Rico was Ricochet, Pam was Mama J, Ruffs was Colonel Ruffs, and Glowy was Glober. Brawl Stars Black Markets. Like any Supercell game, there are websites where you can sell, buy, and trade accounts. It is against the terms of service though, so if you ever get caught buying an account or selling it, those accounts could get banned, and so, yeah. Nat's account is the rarest. So back in 2020, a creator by the name of Nat with a Heart was live streaming when Frank, the game lead, said in the chat if she got 1,000 likes on a post, he would give her true gold and silver for tick. However, for some reason, she only got the gold one, and as you know, you need the silver one to get the gold one, so this made her account pretty rare. However, in 2025, a bug caused this already to happen to a bunch of people, so her account is no longer rare. Squad Busters Beta Announcement TV Room. In April of 2023, during a Brawl Talk, Danny removed a bling treasure and Paula gets transported to an unknown location. And the Brawl Talk goes on without her as normal. At the end, she reappears and said she thinks she saw the future, and indeed she did. Because 1 month later, in a video announcing the Squad Busters second beta, we see where Paula went. It's a pretty eerie location, but also cool. This big TV room that had a bunch of developer talk videos for different games, and there were also some Easter eggs in there, like upcoming content for different games. Life Leech Souls. Life Leech was a showdown modifier where players would lose health as time went on, and the only way you could heal was to damage enemies and collect their souls, which were these red skulls that dropped after they died. Life Leech would eventually be renamed to a Halloween special modifier called Graveyard Shift, and they got rid of the red skulls you had to pick up. Bots using unreleased brawlers. I can't find any evidence that suggests bots have been able to use unreleased brawlers. However, they do tend to use other cosmetics that are unreleased, like profile pictures, which is where the confusion might come from. Negative trophies. This is just a visual glitch that used to happen when you lost a Showdown Plus match when playing with a brawler with 0 trophies. It would say you now had -1 out of 10 trophies in the results screen. However, it didn't actually result in having -1 trophies on that brawler, it was just a visual glitch. Brawl Stars 2004 build.mov. I'm not gonna lie, I included this entry in the video only because it piqued my interest. I mean, 2004 build, what does that even mean? Supercell as a company didn't even exist in 2004. Well, apparently it's just a filler item added to a ton of icebergs. Basically, it's nothing. It's fake. So there is no real file with that name. It was a pretty underwhelming investigation. I really hope there was some odd video to uncover. Ads. Yes, Brawl Stars did have ads at one point, which is crazy to think about for a Supercell game, but also not really because Heyday has ads, and probably Boom Beach too. And yeah, they didn't randomly pop up after every match. Instead, when you opened a box, you see an option to double one reward from that box. You could also claim a free ad box from the shop every day. This would be removed in October 2018, so the feature only existed for a whole 4 months. Crest. These were the name of a special brawler stat boost. In the old upgrade system, where you upgrade every stat individually, I've talked about this a couple times already, the last upgrade used to cost way more, and those were the crest. These would give you things like extra health or damage. For example, Piper's crest gave her extra damage at max range, and there was also one that boosted her grenade's damage, and one that gave her a huge HP buff. These crests were very short-lived though, because this upgrade system only existed between December 2017 and March 2018, so a little over 3 months. Crow's old voice. Crow's voice was added in March 2018, and ever since, it's been the same. However, this entry could be referring to how in the No Time to Explain commercial, he had a much deeper voice.
Someone normal.
Star Park San Diego. In July 2025, during the San Diego Comic-Con, Star Park became a real place. You started off in the Star Rail, which took you through several themed worlds. And eventually, you got to Star Park, which was like a miniature version of the actual lore-based Star Park. It was pretty cool. Paya Terochka. Between August and October 2021, Brawl Stars collaborated with That Grocery Store. I'm not even sure if I said it correctly, but it's Russian. And basically, they partnered up to sell these collectibles across their stores in Russia. The collectibles were basically these decorations that you could stick anywhere. It had like a suction back on it. They look pretty cool. Dance files. This is talking about some files that were found inside the game in the summer of 2025 called dances. And basically, when activated, some brawlers would dance. This led to speculations that brawler dances were coming to Brawl Stars. However, nothing ever came out of this. It's also likely that these were just supposed to be animations for certain special skins that we never got. And other theories suggest that this was all just a bunch of AI baloney and we all got fooled. Wings and halos. This is referring to a Chinese exclusive feature that was introduced in October 2023. It's basically wings and halos that you can attach to brawlers. It's just a cosmetic item that you can buy and unlock. Now, this was the name of a supposed brawler that was coming soon, and it was leaked in August 2019. For a brief moment there, it went viral, but like many leaks, it was all a big joke and now did not exist. Elixir. This was a pretty old currency used in the 2017 days. It essentially let you upgrade one stat for your brawler, like its health, attack, or super. Eventually, this system was replaced altogether, and Elixir never made a comeback. Old Gold Mecha Bow. There's been quite a bit of skin design changes over the years, but one of the most significant was the Gold Mecha Bow. He used to have a lot more black metal on him, but it was later changed to be almost completely gold. Buffy's Forever. This is the name of a video uploaded in December 2025 that was promoting a new feature, Buffy's. However, less than a minute into the video, it takes a very weird turn that some found pretty disturbing. (2020) lawsuit. In 2020, a class action lawsuit claimed Clash Royale and Brawl Stars violated an anti-gambling law, that these games promoted gambling due to the boxes when you unlock random stuff. However, ultimately, these suits were dismissed after the judge ruled that Brawl Stars and Clash does provide exactly what you paid for. This could also be referring to when Gree sued Supercell for patent infringement, which happened in the same year. They claimed that Supercell stole a bunch of their in-game mechanics. In July 2021, they reached a global settlement. Campaign.csv. This is talking about a file found in the game files called campaign.csv. In it are many mentions of planets, campaign bases, defenses, aliens, and a whole lot of other stuff. This is actually a leftover from the Project Laser days. The game was supposed to have some kind of campaign, and the file contains information about all the stages and what enemies appear in said stages. There's also another file called bosses.csv, which contains information on all the bosses and which planets they appear in. Some of the names that were found here were Trooper, Techie, Vanguard, Sniper, Poison Dude, and Healer. Deletion of Season 3 Brawl Talk. There was nothing that odd about the Brawl Talk itself. I mean, there was like glitching effects going on, but that's because it had the investor video attached at the end of it. But in September 2023, the video was made private. Apparently, the issue was that Supercell had hired an external team to create the investor video, which was in the Season 3 Brawl Talk. So when the rights for it expired, they had to take the investor video down and the Season 3 Brawl Talk. There is nothing else to it. It was just a rights issue, and this has happened to many other videos like the Welcome to the Gift Shop animation. Chinese version. You may already know this, but every Supercell game has its own version that is exclusive to China. Brawl Stars is no different, and their version has some major differences like exclusive cosmetics, 3D lobbies where you can walk around and chat with randoms, a gacha system, and a bunch of other visual changes. Colonel Ruffs is the first brawler. This comes from the Art of Supercell book, which shows early concepts of scrapped characters from the time, and one of them was straight up Colonel Ruffs. This was further hinted at during the Project Laser 8-bit minigame. Ruffs literally made a cameo there. Now, it's pretty solid evidence, but there are also a ton of other characters that were in the Project Laser days that made it into the game. So, I'm not really sure. It could very well be the first, but so could Brock or Tick. Sprout removal. In June 2026, there were rumors that Sprout was getting deleted from the game after a lawsuit from a French company saying Sprout's design was based on its air purifier without permission. Supercell was then ordered to stop using the default Sprout skin in France, and shortly after, they removed any video or picture that contained Sprout in it from their social medias. However, the rumors were just that, rumors, and it was later confirmed that it would just be getting remodeled, not removed. December 2017 dev build menu music. I couldn't find anything weird about the music in the dev build that update. However, this update was the one to change the menu music from this to this. So maybe this is what they're referring to, the fact that it changed on this update. Pre-beta Dynamite. Other than looking very different from its beta model, pre-beta Dynamite also didn't have any dynamite in his hand, and for whatever reason they were gold. It's pretty clear that the model was just unfinished, but it's still a strange one. Rhino. This was the name of a pre-beta concept of Frank discovered in 2019. It's just Frank, but human. Everything, including the walk and attacks, were basically the same, and his name was apparently going to be Rhino. Fern. This was a brawler concept. It reminds me a lot of the Yeti from Clash of Clans, and its description hinted at the fact that hurting him would upset his plantlings. The artist said it never made it out of the concept stage, and the trunk design was the one Supercell went with at the time, which he also made. Dynamite's Canary. If you didn't know already, Dynamite has a bird under his helmet. This bird is a canary, and basically way back in the day, miners used to travel underground with canaries to act as an early warning sign signal for toxic gases. Basically, if the bird became sick or died, that was the sign to get out of that cave. Chola. This was the name of a Lola skin. It was called Chola. However, Supercell was unaware that the name Chola wasn't received very well because Chola in some Spanish-speaking countries is an offensive way to describe someone. So the skin was eventually renamed to Rebel Lola. Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie is a brawler in Brawl Stars, and her canon is called Clyde. This is a reference to Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, also known as the notorious American outlaws known as Bonnie and Clyde. They traveled across the US with their gang during the Great Depression, robbing banks, committing burglaries, and murders. Both of them died in 1934 after a law enforcement ambush. Brawl Stars is in the Clash universe. This is a theory that suggests Brawl Stars takes place in the Clash universe, and there's been a few pieces of evidence throughout the years that point toward that. This all started when a video was uploaded in December 2018 where the wizard accidentally transferred his clothes onto Barley, and then came the slew of Clash themed skins. Not only that, but there's also this picture of Clash Royale characters celebrating Brawl Stars' 3rd birthday, and Barley is there just chillin'. In the trailer for Dagger Duchess, she had a magazine with Crow on the front page. And lastly, Bo and Shelly ended up as playable characters in Clash Royale in December 2018. It's definitely possible. There's quite a bit of evidence backing this theory. Artifact. This is referring to a game mode that was found in the game files. Someone actually coded it into the game to be playable, and it's basically where you defend one single artifact and both teams fight over it. This was likely a very early version of Gem Grab or an entirely different mode, but we do know that it was a leftover from the Project Laser or Slugfest days. Unreleased brawler in monthly finals video. On June 4th, 2020, during the day 1 of the monthly Brawl Stars Championship, players noticed new brawlers on the thumbnail. However, it turned out it was just Leon and BB, and the reason they look so odd is because that's what they do for esports. They take brawlers and make them into human avatars. For example, in 2021, they made one for Penny, Tick, BB, Amber, Jean, and Colt. Egg Brawlers. This is referring to the giant community meme of egg brawlers, which would eventually become a reality. But before they were at it, this whole thing started with a Supercell make submission of an egg bow. Then someone made one for Egg Pam, and the whole egg thing just went nuts. Eventually, Supercell acknowledged this and said it would be added during an April Fool's, and it was also found in the game files, but that's probably part of the joke for them to find it. Finally though, in 2025, the egg skins were added. Egg Pam and Egg Rico. Laser _ pre _ v14.23.apk. This is supposedly the file name for a working version of Project Laser. It's believed that some version of this is floating around out there in the wild, but the only source I've found to this file name was other icebergs. Not very credible, eh? However, it's certainly possible that a working version of Project Laser does exist. According to Kairos Time, a content creator, a developer once told them that somewhere in the Supercell HQ, there are arcade machines with scrapped and older versions of games. One of these could very likely be Project Laser, but floating around in the public, I highly doubt it. De-identified. De-identified is what accounts that have been inactive for a very long time become. Their names will say de-identified and disappear from your friends list and clans. However, this is not the case all of the time. I recently visited my old Mutiny Retreat clan, and there was a person in there called de-identified. So yes, they can be found in the wild. Social media deletion. In November 2018, Brawl Stars would completely wipe all of their social medias and videos. It's as if they hadn't existed at all, except for one picture of brawlers walking in a sunset. Players were speculating that the game was getting killed, but it turned out to be a marketing campaign to get people talking about the game for its global launch. Testy. This is a clan that is believed to be the first Brawl Stars clan ever created because it has the infamous #2pp clan tag. Now, we don't know for sure, but it's interesting to know that the first Clash of Clans clan, the Order, has a hashtag of 2pp. So if it's the first clan there, it would make sense that this is the first clan in Brawl. There's also the fact that Testy literally means test in Finnish. Yes, it has an extra I, but still, it really leaves you wondering. Tojoko. This is the name of an account who is believed to be the first player in Brawl Stars due to their player tag #2pp. So much like the first clan we looked at in a different entry, it's all in that #2pp tag, which has been confirmed to signify first in other Supercell games. Squeezer. This is referring to a clan with that same name that has a bunch of members also with that same name. Now, back when clubs were still 100 members, it had a goal of reaching 100 Squeezers in the clan, and it does seem like they reached that goal at some point, and it's still around today. Billy Kometz. If you didn't know, Billy Kometz was the voice behind the brawler Colt since 2017. Unfortunately though, he passed away from colon cancer on June 9th, 2022 at the age of 35. Scrapped voice lines. There are many unused brawler voice lines. Some of them used to be used a long time ago, and others just never at all.
Hashtag, oh my god, I'm totally winning!
You ruined my solo!
Spike beta texture. This is likely referring to the initial concept designs of Spike, because the first playable version of Spike didn't really look a whole lot different than the Spike we have today. But yeah, some of the sketches were just flat out uncanny, and some even a little disturbing. Spike's bullet holes. This is referring to how Spike's eyes and mouth are actually bullet holes. In the Art of Supercell book, it explains that these holes formed from a showdown between cowboys, insinuating that Spike was just a cactus that got caught in the crossfire. However, I thought it was worth mentioning that this is Spike's original Western lore, and after Star Park became a thing, the lore shows that Colt shot him intentionally, probably because he felt afraid, and Spike created his own mouth. Gore fan art. Where there is a community and a game, there is fan art. And where there is fan art, there is a dark side of it. Gore fan art has been created for Brawl Stars for ages, and if you ever search it up, you'll come across some very disturbing pieces. Toothless Piper. This was the old Piper icon, but in August 2019, they redesigned it to this. Yeah, she lost her teeth. I think they were trying to make her look younger or something, but they made her look very uncanny. But of course, she eventually got a new icon. Grom is a So this is a theory that Grom has some ties to a particular man with that old signature mustache. This started when Grom was added and his super ability seemed to imprint a certain symbol on the floor. Obviously, this was very hard to ignore, which led Supercell to respond saying this was a oversight. Eventually, the super's effects were fixed. Hashtag 9U22GGV2. This is a tag for a club. When you search it up, it brings up a clan with no members. No one really knows how this is possible because when the last member leaves, a clan automatically gets deleted. But this one clan remains despite there being no one in there. Star Park Security Room. Like every theme park, there is a security room hidden away somewhere with CCTV feeds, and for Star Park, this was no different. For the game's 5th year anniversary, Brawl Stars launched a campaign where players could visit this website that put you in that security room. It was fully interactive too, so you could tap on anything. But the coolest part was that timestamps were often hidden in art and commercials, and you could type it in to see recordings, like the infamous Ferris wheel incident. Throughout the 6 weeks it was up, you could see Star Park through 54 different cameras, revealing a lot of missing pieces to the Star Park lore. Stage Server. A stage server is a separate server in the game that developers and testers can connect to test things. In terms of Brawl Stars though, many speculate there is some way to connect to this stage server. However, just about the only thing I found is a way to check if the stage server was updated by changing some things in the game files. And that's how they know that the live server might be getting an update soon. Debug menu. The debug menu is a mystery that's confused many players for all Supercell games. It's a button that has the letter D in it that stands for debug, and this is only on the developer builds. Although content creators can't show the menu open, which is the reason behind this whole mystery, I can tell you it's nothing but tools that are helpful when recording sneak peek videos. I'm not familiar with the Brawl Stars one, but in Clash of Clans it lets us load any town hall level, remove buildings, and of course, unlimited resources. Bone Thrower Pet. This was a brawler found in the game files that had an unknown pet, most likely a dog judging by the name. It was using Nita's bear as a placeholder. The brawler would spawn this pet and it simply stayed close to the brawler until they threw a bone at an area. Then the pet would go attack any enemy in the area. Also, the description for the brawler was found in the game files along with its weapon, a minigun. It also had a slow movement speed and was immune to pushback effects. Brawl Stars is personalized. Okay, this always finds its way into the bottom of every game Iceberg. This is just a meme at this point that grew in popularity in Mario 64 Icebergs with a theory that certain copies of the game were personalized because players remembered some things that weren't in everyone's copy. This has nothing to do with Brawl Stars, of course. There's only some lightweight personalized stuff like the shops. Female_pain_01. There are 2 unused sound effects of a female being hurt. It's unknown who this belonged to, especially how most sound effects say which brawler they are for. There's been some theories that suggest that the female being hurt was a real recording of someone actually being hurt. However, the most likely explanation here is that this was simply a leftover from the Project Laser days, or is used for generic brawlers when they are in their testing stages. Interestingly, the same sounds do exist for a male version. Hogrider_brawler. I'm not 100% sure if this still exists in the game files, I doubt it, but this is referring to a Hog Rider brawler. Not the Coral skin, but an actual Hog Rider that was in the game files before soft launch. The footage you are seeing is from its alpha days, months before soft launch, and while the tester is selecting brawlers, we see a Hog Rider. It also doesn't look like it was a generic placeholder. This looked like it was a Hog Rider meant for Brawl Stars. Advanced bots. This is a theory that states Brawl Stars has advanced bots that behave just like real players in any trophy range. So this isn't just talking about the bots you see at low trophies. The theory explains that most players don't even know they exist from how advanced they are. They are controlled by the same personalization AI and are trained using gigabytes of player input data to make advanced bots indistinguishable to real players. I don't know, you tell me, definitely possible. Laser 2. Other than Laser 2 being the splash screen for the first version of what will become Brawl Stars, it is also a club in Brawl Stars called Laser 2. And it essentially has a bunch of members that are developers like Frank, Danny, and many others. There's probably more clans like this. I've heard of Laser 1, 3, and 4, but this is the most well-known one. BBB Crossover Lost Media. BBB stands for Big Brother Brazil, which is a Brazilian show. The show is kind of irrelevant, so I won't explain it, but there was rumors shortly after global launch that one of their episodes had a Brawl Stars collaboration. And it was true. There were some screenshots floating around, but the episode was considered lost media for years. That was until 2022 when a link surfaced that contained an almost complete recording of the Brawl Stars collaboration. It is quite long, but I'll play some of the highlights.
Teresa. Próximo brawler. Tire uma vida de participante. Ai, caiu.
Brawl Stars the movie. Just about the only video I found of a Brawl Stars movie is those compilations on YouTube that just put a bunch of animations together and call it a movie. And this, an entire fandom page talking about a Brawl Stars movie that premiered in 2022. The page goes into detail and is pretty convincing. However, the movie it's talking about doesn't exist. Teaming bots. This is referring to bots who have been seen teaming with each other. And obviously this is not normal behavior. In 2022, a Redditor explained that there used to be a bug that caused the AI for two bots to merge, so they would think they are the same and not attack each other. The only footage I could find of bots doing this was this edit someone made, but if I slow it down here a bit, you can see the bots not attacking each other in several moments of the match where they could have. Rare Spike. During Season 5, there was an odd bug that allowed players to unlock Spike as a rare brawler. And it wasn't only visual because you could pull it from boxes with the possibility of a rare. So it was way easier to get. Self-awareness. This entry is referring to brawlers who know they exist within the fictional world of Brawl Stars. Colette and Edgar, the two workers of the Star Park gift shop, mentioned the game in their voice lines.
CEO of Brawl Stars.
Brawl Stars forever!
Ryan creator code. As you know, many creators have a creator code, but one person that is not a creator and the only developer to have a code is Ryan. That's right, his code is R-Light. The Rant. This is referring to a 24-minute and 50-second rant who is believed to be by Dynamite that played during the WK Burial stream.
Hello? Hi. Hey, I don't have much time. I snuck in here, and I was able to dig in through the basement door, and I was able to talk to you. I gotta talk to you right now about what's really going on in this world. I want to talk about a lot of things. I want to tell you the truth.
Basically, he hijacked the radio station to try to expose the truth about what happened at Star Park, as well as confirming many of the other theories on this iceberg, such as the spaghetti on a stick, gems being radioactive, and the fact that brawlers are in a simulation being controlled by outside forces. Black holes. In August 2024, a Reddit user logged on to Brawl Stars and saw this. Much of the UI was blacked out, but the creepiest part was that brawlers had their eyes missing, leading them to look like this. Now, some Redditors speculated that this was some kind of intentional change for Halloween, but it wasn't. It was a terrifying bug that the OP was experiencing. Playable mouse bot. I've touched on this a couple times already, but basically this entry is referring to that at one point we could play as the mouse bot. In the Project Laser days, it was a hero. Now, hero is probably just what they used to call brawlers. But yeah, I think it's really cool that a character from so long ago ended up in the game in some way or another. Brawl Talk leak. There's been a few times a Brawl Talk has been leaked. For example, on January 22nd, 2021, a video was uploaded of the entire Season 5 Brawl Talk a whole 2 days before its planned release. Then in December 2024, the same thing would happen for the Toy Story collaboration. Bones in Edgar's scarf. In a March 2022 loading screen, it was revealed that Edgar's scarf had bones. Now, this could have possibly been a cartoonish joke, but some theories suggest the scarf is a parasite that he gained when he was mutated at Star Park. That would explain why it has bones. It's a living creature. Lowly Candle. Fancy Artist was a freelance artist specializing in Brawl Stars art and animations. He was also known for his Supercell Make submissions, which got a lot of votes. One thing led to another, and eventually Francie ended up working alongside Supercell to create skins and brawler concepts. However, 2 years into the job, Francie was exposed for his past behavior. Apparently, he previously went by Lowly Candle on Twitter, which is where he said some pretty bizarre things about brawlers that were supposed to be children, and he also drew explicit images of a minor that he knew without their permission. Francie was eventually let go in 2023 after Supercell caught wind of what was going on. Switch of El Primo. This is likely referring to this very dark and disturbing image of El Primo. This seems to have been created sometime in 2021, and the original creator is unknown. There are some creepypastas attached to it, but those were all created after the image was created. Glowing rectangles. In the investor video that we looked at earlier, at some point the man says some things that are incoherent. But when reversed, he says this.
In the future, the children control us. We fight in glowing rectangles.
If you didn't catch that, he said, in the future, children control us with glowing rectangles. He is referring to the future where we will play Brawl Stars and control the brawlers through our smartphones. This aligns with the Star Park lore that the park trapped its survivors inside a loop of eternal combat. They are forced to be in this simulation of a game. So, you made it! You reached the bottom of the iceberg, and unfortunately there's not like any prize or anything down here. But YouTube thinks you might want to watch this next video by me in case you're not tired of listening to me for nearly an hour and a half. I wouldn't blame you, I'm tired of hearing myself. You know how many times I had to re-watch this thing? Anyway, with that said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.